the discredited Fusion GPS dossier paid for by the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee. The House Intelligence Committee wants to know more about Peter Strzok, the FBI official who was removed from Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation after a number of anti-Trump texts were discovered on his phone. The committee also wants to know whether Strzok used the dossier to obtain a warrant from a FISA court in order to spy on members of the Trump campaign. Concerns also remain about Bruce Orr, a senior Justice Department official. He was demoted after questions about his contacts with Fusion GPS and dossier author Christopher Steele. Former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort today fighting back against the deep state Department of Justice filing a civil complaint against Mueller and Rosenstein, alleging the Russia probe has gone far beyond the scope of the special counsel mandate. Significant developments in the wake of a lengthy Russia collusion probe that has uncovered absolutely no evidence of any kind of collusion whatsoever. Our first guest tonight says Congress should use its authority to detain Rosenstein and Wray if they fail to comply with subpoenas. Joining us tonight, Congressman Ron DeSantis, member of several key committees, including Foreign Affairs, Judiciary, and Oversight, a member of the Freedom Caucus as well. Congressman, great to have you with us. And I must say, the new year off to a quick and strong start. Where do you think we are headed if indeed Wray and Rosenstein fail to produce those documents?
Well, Happy New Year, Lou. I think we will go towards a contempt, but I think it's important the type of contempt that we pursue. If you remember when we held Lois Lerner in contempt, the corrupt IRS official, we sent a referral to the Justice Department and said, please prosecute her. Well, guess what? Eric Holder wasn't going to prosecute that. So if we do the same thing here and send a referral to justice, well, guess what? They're not going to pursue that against the deputy AG and the FBI director. So I think what we have to do is use Congress's inherent contempt authority, which was done for 175 years. You have to bring them into the Congress. You have a vote on the contempt, and then you detain them. Just like if you were in contempt of court, the judge would detain you, and they're detained until they comply. And here's what I predict. If they were put in the House jail for contempt of Congress, we'd have the documents within 24 hours.
Well, you know, that's certainly an interesting idea, Congressman, and I think it would have some considerable appeal to most people who want to see justice done in this instance. But at the same time, there is so much that could be done in addition to that. There should be, it seems to me, from the Trump administration, in order to produce those FISA warrant applications and find out what really was put forward by the Department of Justice and the FBI. Did they use that dossier with certain knowledge? Did they defraud the court and break the law in that instance?
Without question. Without question. And I would go, we obviously need that. We need everything. Who started this investigation? You remember the New York Times used to say it was because of Carter Page. Now they're running an article this weekend based on anonymous sources saying, oh, it was actually George Papadopoulos. He was drunk at a bar and he was talking about Hillary Dirt. So we had to start a federal investigation. So I think from the very beginning of that, we need every document, every piece of paper. We need to know what Peter Strzok was doing. We need to know the involvement of Andrew McCabe, Jim Comey. We need to know Bruce Orr. Why would you have one of the highest-ranking officials in the Justice Department meeting with Christopher Steele, the author of the dossier, during the campaign? And the fact that he's been demoted tells you that there was something problematic with what he was doing. We need all of that, and including, obviously, the FISA surveillance on Carter Page. And incidentally, Lou, if, in fact, the New York Times is right that it was Papadopoulos that started this, then where did they get the basis to surveil Carter Page, if not from the dossier? So you have a concerted effort from leakers inside the permanent bureaucracy to work with the media to try to de-emphasize the dossier. And I think your viewers should ask themselves, why would they be doing that? I think it's because they're worried about the truth about the dossier.
Yeah, Fusion GPS and its sordid role in all of this, and so far, Congress has not laid a glove on them, nor has the Justice Department, nor has the FBI. They are operating, these are smear merchants, and they were obviously used for one purpose by the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee, and that was to attack the campaign of Donald Trump and to try to subvert his presidency before it could begin, and certainly have tried to subvert it once it did begin.
And the gutter politics is nothing new with the Clintons, but what really makes this so much more troubling is the confluence between the smear merchants at Fusion GPS and the Obama Lynch Justice Department and FBI. And that is really as serious as it gets. And my thing with this whole thing going back months is, if the answer to all those questions were innocent answers, don't you think that they would have just said, of course we didn't pay for the dossier, of course we didn't use something uncorroborated to get surveillance, and yet none of these officials under oath have ever been willing to say that, and that's why you look at this and you say this thing just stinks to high heaven.
You and Congressman Jim Jordan trying to get to the answers about what the Obama administration was doing and how it may have been that they in fact interfered with justice and with the department, the DEA and other investigations in order to pursue the Iranian deal, which resulted in $150 billion going to the oppressive government and regime of Iran. And at the same time, while the Iranian people were clamoring for freedom, for openness in their society, where do you stand with that investigation?
So we have folks who were involved that are coming forward to the committee. You know, we're going to be interviewing them. I do imagine they will testify in the not too distant future. So we are going to get to the bottom of all of that, because you're right. They were so desperate to do a nuclear deal, to give Iran all this money, fly in all the cash on the jets into Tehran, that they were willing to empower Hezbollah. Hezbollah has American blood on its hands from the Beirut bombings of the Marine Corps barracks in 1983. This is a brutal terrorist group. And it's not just that. We are going to look at that core issue. There have been reports in the last week that Israel was able to get Qasem Soleimani, the commander of the Quds Force, which is one of Iran's top proxies, in its crosshairs, and the Obama administration tipped off Tehran that was going to happen. It thwarted Israel's ability to bring Soleimani to justice. So the extent to which the Obama administration begged off being responsible involving all these terrorist actors in this desperate quest for this nuclear deal, I think we're only scratching the surface on that. And yes, we're going to have some good witnesses. I've been very encouraged with the initial information that's come forward.
Congressman Ron DeSantis, always good to talk with you. We appreciate your being here.
Thanks, Lou. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We're coming right back. A lot more straight ahead. Please stay with us. President Trump and his administration firing back at former chief strategist Steve Bannon after Bannon insulted the administration and the president's family.
I think that is a ridiculous accusation. If anybody's been inconsistent, it's been him. Certainly hasn't been the president or this administration.
What in the world was Steve Bannon thinking? We take that up with Ed Rollins here next. Have you ever heard of the term bomb cyclone? It's what meteorologists do when they want to use hyperbole, describing the winter storm that now threatens much of the country, we're told. Colder temperatures are certainly likely to result. We'll tell you how bad it will get. Stay with us. President Trump today delivered one of the best political counterpunches in some time, responding to former White House strategist Steve Bannon's vicious attack on the president and his family, put forward in an upcoming White House tell-all book. In a statement, President Trump put Bannon in his place, saying, quote, "Steve Bannon has nothing to do with me or my presidency. When he was fired, he not only lost his job, he lost his mind." President Trump begins 2018 having sparked an economic boom, the likes of which few have ever seen during their first year in office. The Dow up 25% last year, more than 70 record closes. The rate of economic growth more than doubling to 3.2% from just 1.5% in the fourth quarter of 2016. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate fell to 4.1% from nearly 5%. You can expect all that winning to continue as the benefits of that big tax cut kick in, including a cut in the corporate rate from 35 to 21%, as well as a cut in most people's individual rates. More than 24 major companies have already announced they're giving their employees bonuses or raises in anticipation of the implementation of tax reform. Joining me now, Ed Rollins, former Reagan White House political director, Fox Business contributor. Great to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Well, here we go. What in the world was Steve Bannon thinking?
Well, he set himself on fire in the middle of the South Lawn, and the president ran over him with a tank and put it in reverse and backed over him again. I've never seen anybody do anything as stupid as he did in this interview, where he attacked the president's family. And what sometimes happens is it's hubris. They think, staffers sometimes think they're the ones that got somebody there, that they're smarter. The president got himself there, and I think, as you're going to find when this book comes out, he didn't have an experienced team, but he tapped into what was going on in the electorate. And he basically, this year of extreme accomplishments, it was not Bannon, it was not Priebus, it was nobody else, it was him. And I think that's what Bannon found out today, and why he came out with this stupid statement attacking the president, who no one ever heard of Bannon before Trump got elected. I think it's the end of Bannon.
Yeah, and more than the issue of the contretemps between the two men, what would motivate Bannon to think he's as smart as the president, as witty? I mean, he watched this president on the campaign trail for, what was it, 3 months, deliver broadside after broadside against 16 candidates who thought they were, a better offering for the American voter, and were proved utterly wrong.
Well, Bannon has never been involved in campaigns before, and he obviously had an opportunity to watch one up close. But as you say, I think he underestimated the value of the horse that he's riding, or won't be riding anymore, because the horse bucked him off and stomped on him today. I think Bannon is political history at this point in time. I don't think anybody wants him near his campaign. And I think he'd have been a little humble after the Alabama race in the last couple of weeks. But I've watched a lot of people with hubris come to that town, and the bottom line is the only ones that matter are the people who get votes.
A couple of things that are going on right now. One, of course, is the consideration about the delivery of those documents and the appearance of both Rosenstein and FBI Director Christopher Wray. This looks like it's headed toward an impasse and a resolution on contempt of Congress.
Well, the president ought to basically say tomorrow, bring them over the Oval Office and say, I want these documents delivered to the Congress. I want them delivered today. I want you to quit stonewalling them. If this is what the Congress wants and they have legitimate reasons to get it, do it. I mean, I think to a certain extent it's time for the president to do to the FBI and the Justice Department what he did to Bannon today. Come around a little bit.
And he certainly has the capacity to do that. The very idea that this administration has an attorney general who already has receded from view. The president is working throughout, day in and day out, no matter where he is. And we can't find Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Where is he? What's going on?
Well, as we've said many times on this show, and I was a big Jeff Sessions fan when he was a senator, and certainly was an important endorsement. He has not done the job. He's not capable of doing the job at this point in time. The president needs to get somebody in there who can do the job, and he needs to do that quick. Your attorney general has to be like your most important player in an administration, especially where there's going to be nothing but lawsuits and all the rest of the crap that's going to come forward for the next. It's been one solid year now, and there's nobody in that Justice Department fighting for Donald Trump, and it's his Justice Department.
Yeah, it is truly one of the most frustrating things from the base. I mean, we hear from this audience on Twitter. This is a country right now supporting President Trump, and they cannot begin to comprehend, and I frankly can't give you the answer, why in the world this can't be a Trump administration until instead of an admixture of Obama leftovers and deep state, subversives.
He can do it. He just needs to do it, and I think he will do it. The most amazing thing to me, Lou, where he really deserves credit, is with all the disarray that you read in these books and what have you, and Bannon and all these people were fighting with each other, the president still moved an agenda forward. At the end of 1 year, he's accomplished more than he or anybody else thought possible. And I think that's, if he had a team that was supporting him, it would even be better.
Imagine what he could have accomplished. Absolutely. I mean, when we look at the accomplishments of this president over the course, it's not even a year, it's still well short of a year. It's breathtaking. In tax reform, as the capper for 2017, that's a foundation for 8 years.
Absolutely.
And that achievement, we're going to be feeling the benefits of that for years to come in the economy.
I hope Bannon is a lesson to everybody else. You didn't get there. Donald Trump got there. It's his presidency.
You know, it's amazing how many people, I just don't understand it. The number of people in the Republican Party, forget the deep state, forget the left, but the number of folks, I mean, how many times have we sat at this desk over the course of these past 11 months and said, what in the world is wrong with Mitch McConnell, with Paul Ryan, and their teams on Capitol Hill? The number of people who insisted upon underestimating this president has been
astonishing to me.
It's just incomprehensible.
So, well, my sense is he's on his way now. In spite of all the stumbles by his people and what have you, he still carried the ball across the finish line.
Oh, he's doing a lot better than that.
Yes, sir.
And we could keep the metaphor going for a long time. Instead, we'll look forward to our next discussion. Perhaps, what do you think? Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Let's do that.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Ed Rollins, be sure to vote in our poll tonight. Do you believe this will be the year the Russia investigation shifts its focus to Clinton and Obama corruption and collusion? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs tonight. Forecasters now are warning for the Northeast that there is something called a bomb cyclone on the way, hitting the East Coast tonight and may rage into the weekend. Just what is a bomb cyclone? Well, we didn't know. Hopefully you do. But to help anyone out, essentially it's a winter hurricane with ice, strong winds, and flooding along coastal areas from Florida all the way to New England. A bomb cyclone. It happens when a storm's central barometric pressure drops at least 24 millibars in 24 hours. The lower the pressure, the stronger the storm, but we all knew that, right? And on Wall Street, a record-breaking day for stocks. Of course, we're back in the market. The Dow gaining 99 points. Look at that. The Dow is only 78 points almost from 25,000. The S&P up 17, closing above 2,700 for the first time. The Nasdaq up 59 points. All three indexes tonight are at all-time record highs. Volume on the big board, 3.5 billion shares. Tesla shares falling, however, after missing the mark on deliveries of its Model 3, and by the way, missing the mark by a huge margin. Auto sales overall falling from record highs of the previous year, posting the first annual decline in 2017 since the financial crisis. And a reminder to listen to my reports 3 times a day, coast to coast, on the Salem Radio Network. Up next, Steve Bannon tonight has learned, well, he's got to reassess his capacity and his talents and his targets. We'll have that and much more next. Stay with us. A few thoughts now on a devastating counterattack by President Trump against one of his former aides who, for whatever incomprehensible reason, decided he was a match for the president in intellect, wit, or outright verbal broadsides. The president today proved Steve Bannon to be wrong, overwhelmingly wrong on all 3 counts. President Trump responded to Bannon's reported insults to the Trump family and to Mr. Trump, saying this: Steve Bannon has nothing to do with me or my presidency. When he was fired, he not only lost his job, he lost his mind. Steve doesn't represent my base. He's only in it for himself. The scathing statement comes less than 2 weeks after a Vanity Fair interview in which Bannon railed against the president's daughter, Ivanka, and her husband, Jared Kushner, an interview that reportedly angered the president. But the Bannon remarks in an upcoming book elicited responses from both the president and the First Lady. Melania Trump's spokesperson blasted the book and the Bannon insults within as belonging in the bargain fiction section. And White House Press Secretary Sara Sanders with this statement, quote, participating in a book that can only be described as trashy tabloid fiction exposes their sad, desperate attempts at relevancy. In my entire career, I can tell you I've never witnessed such disrespect for any president or any presidency, and that is from the very beginning of this presidency and from all quarters of the political spectrum. This president and his family have sacrificed so much to serve this nation, and for their trouble, they are attacked from all sides, from leftist academia and left-wing national media, ingrates who have little talent in either party and even less integrity. The raw jealousy, bitter resentment, and outright hatred that is directed at President Trump and his family almost every single day is unprecedented, utterly unfair, and wrong according to every American value and standard. Denying truth, turning justice on its head, and the pettiness of politicians and little partisans refusing to credit President Trump for his extraordinary accomplishments. And yes, he has yet to serve a full year in office. And this president has worked wonders, and he's worked hard, tirelessly, and more than anyone else in Washington. But Mr. Trump's detractors will surely consume themselves soon, denying his success and surely resenting his commitment to restoring this nation's destiny while brightening prospects for all our citizens. Our quotation of the evening, this one from General George S. Patton. He said, "We herd sheep, we drive cattle, we lead people." He said, "Lead me, follow me, or get out of my way." There you have it. We're coming right back. President Trump pledging great support for the people of Iran as they take to the streets to protest their corrupt regime. We'll discuss the unrest in Iran and the Trump administration's possible new sanctions against Iran with General Jack Keane. And 23 wingsuiters, count them, 23 from all over the world. They got together to take over the sky in formation. We'll show you their performance from 13,000 feet here next. Stay with us. We'll be right back. President Trump today expressed his support for Iranian demonstrators protesting their country's oppressive regime. The president tweeted this, quote, "Such respect for the people of Iran as they try to take back their corrupt government. You will see great support from the United States at the appropriate time." At least 21 people have been killed, hundreds more arrested during a week of protests. North Korea's relationship with South Korea may be warming a bit. The Kim regime today reopened a border telephone hotline with South Korea, the first time that's been opened in more than 2 years. The move comes days after Kim Jong-un discussed easing military tensions with South Korea ahead of February's Winter Olympics. Joining us tonight, retired four-star General Jack Keane. He's the chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, Fox Business Senior Strategic Analyst. Great to have you here.
Good to be here, Lou.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Let's start with the Iranian protest. I was stunned to hear various members of the Obama administration suggest to President Trump and his advisors that they not say anything about the street demonstrations in Iran.
Yeah, the fact that they were quiet in the summer of 2009 when there were 3 million people demonstrating in the streets of Tehran, the first public display of protest against this Islamic State, and the fact that we did not support that and had no moral clarity on it, I was embarrassed as an American. And these are apologists for that kind of policy statement. President Trump has done exactly the right thing. We have moral clarity on the issue. This is a repressive regime. This is a regime that has taken the money that they have and used that money to advance their foreign policy in Lebanon and Syria, in Iraq, and in Yemen. And they're squandering the opportunity to improve the quality of life experience for their citizens. And their citizens resent it. They're frustrated by it. Unemployment's off the charts, 12%. Inflation rates are crazy. Gas lines, fuel prices. And what impresses me about the protest, it's not the urban elite, Lou, in Tehran that were the protests the last time over a stolen election. This cuts through the political and social contours of the entire state. There's tens of...
And widespread.
Yeah, very widespread, and it cuts across the socioeconomic lines as well. So this is going to cause a fissure. It may not cause the regime to come down, But this is not going to be something they're going to be able to put back easily.
And turning to North Korea, where we have the two-state peninsula, which has been the strategy for the United States as well as for China for the past 50 years, really. The idea that Kim Jong-un suddenly is making overtures to South Korea as some sort of an attempt to frustrate President Trump, I'm just anxious to get your analysis of it.
Well, they're taking out the chapter of an old playbook, because what they have done in the past with our previous presidents, much to their success, is they have gone to the negotiating table, and when they're doing that, they're buying time and they're advancing their technology. They feel a little pressure here. There's gas lines, there's gas stations closed. The evidence of the 2 soldiers that came across the border, they had malnutrition, and usually they're well fed, and they had serious bacterial infections as well. You know, it's a closed society. We don't have a lot of information in public sources to be sure, but the reality is there seems to be some economic squeeze taking place. We don't know if China and Russia do have a backdoor that's still helping North Korea, but I think our intelligence services probably have a pretty good grip on that.
And some very good pictures of oil being offloaded from Chinese vessels to North Korean. Let's turn to James Clapper. People may forget that it was the outspoken political statements of 3 heads of agencies, the CIA, the NSA, and the NDI, James Clapper. James Clapper now saying that the Trump administration should accept a nuclear North Korea and that it would be a fool's errand to do otherwise. Your reaction?
Well, I think it's grossly irresponsible for a U.S. official, at least claimed to have been one for all those years, to make a statement like that. That actually was Obama's policy. Even though he said that military option was on the table, he never intended to use it. And clearly, Kim Jong-un believes in his own mind, because we have accepted nuclear weapons in 2005. Obviously, it's 12 years later. We've done nothing about it. That if he develops nuclearized ICBMs, that the United States will follow that pattern and accept it. The problem he has is that that was true under Obama and may have been true under previous presidents as well, but it's not true under this president. This president is not going to do it, and here's why. It's not just nuclear ICBMs pointed at the entire scale of the United States. It's miniaturized nuclear warheads that can be provided to terrorists for money and will be given to Iran, that clearly makes the world so much more a dangerous place. And this president is standing up against that danger, not just for the security of the American people, but what it means for humanity. And we're taking exactly the right course. Military option on the table, and that will strengthen the economic, diplomatic action that has been taken to date, and much more certainly is going to have to be done.
And because of people like James Clapper advising presidents like Barack Obama, here it is all facing President Trump for resolution. General, great to see you.
Yeah, it's good seeing you, Lou.
Please roll the video and watch as this group of wingsuiters unite 13,000 feet over Florida. 23 skilled athletes flying in sync to create this spectacular aerial display. That is extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. First of all, that those wingsuits are sufficient to let them do that. I wouldn't trust that idea for a moment. Up next, top Clinton aide Huma Abedin under fire after forwarding government passwords classified to her personal email. Daily Caller investigative reporter Luke Rosiak takes up the president's call for DOJ action, and more next. Stay with us. We'll be right back with that. No word yet from the Department of Justice on Huma Abedin's mishandling of classified material. The top Hillary Clinton aide forwarded State Department emails and passwords to her personal Yahoo email account before every Yahoo account was hacked back in 2013. Several documents marked classified at the time, not up-classified, but classified at the time, also found on a laptop belonging to Abedin's husband at the time, Anthony Weiner. Our next guest has written extensively on the Clinton email scandal, reporting extraordinary developments throughout. Daily Caller investigative reporter Luke Rosiak. Great to have you with us, Luke. Let's start with why, based on what we know now, and largely because of what the House Intel Committee has been able to produce, why is there not an immediate reopening of the case against Hillary Clinton and her top aides?
That's a good question. I mean, I think to reopen it, you have to acknowledge the mistakes that they made in the past, and I think that's going to be deeply troubling for the FBI because they haven't explained why they didn't pursue these things in the first place. And I think it would be pretty hard to rationalize that. I mean, we learned today that Hillary Clinton's privately hired IT guy deleted emails after they were subpoenaed by Congress, and then he lied to the FBI about it, and they gave him immunity. So in some cases, those immunity deals are presumably still binding.
Yeah, you mean for precisely the same thing, that is lying to the FBI, that General Flynn acknowledged he had done.
That's right. And, you know, when we see how carelessly Clinton and her whole crew treated cybersecurity, I can't help but think about the breach of the DNC and how the sky was falling, and that was the worst thing that ever occurred. And then you think about it. You've got Huma Abedin sending classified information about Syria and about Russia to Yahoo, which was hacked by hostile foreign powers. A Russian spy was indicted, and they don't care. You have Pakistani national Imran Awan hacking Congress, Democrats not seeking charges. They've been careless with these documents.
I think what you're saying, if I may, look, just to put a bit of a point on it, you're saying they didn't care. You're talking about the Obama administration didn't care. You're saying that the FBI didn't care because they didn't insist on forensic examination of the servers of the DNC. They didn't even have an ability to identify Russia as the hackers because a third party was what they relied upon for that determination.
Right. They didn't let the FBI, which was the Obama Department of Justice, see the DNC server. So, but yet the DNC hack was the worst thing that ever happened. And meanwhile, the running state, like hacking is a non-issue. They're basically got a neon sign welcoming hackers by using Yahoo, which is the most laughably insecure email provider. So they're putting political parties' data integrity over the United States government. At the end of the day, it's not that bad for. It shouldn't be considered worse for Americans to be able to read the emails of a political party, the DNC, compared to letting Russia or foreign actors see United States government documents. So to me, the treatment of government documents in an insecure manner is worse than political parties' emails being exposed.
The Hill's John Solomon, as he has throughout his career, he's reporting for the first time. Congressional investigators now say they've secured sufficient evidence to definitively say that the FBI believed there was evidence that laws were broken, and in point of fact, overwhelmingly, simply by the amount of evidence that they cataloged, that there was clearly every reason to believe a crime was committed. Solomon doing that reporting, and yet again, we're at the point that some want to be in utter denial about the sorry, corrupt state of the top of the FBI. The leadership of the FBI, it seems to me, Luke, has to be completely cleaned out. This is now a matter of national security. It's extraordinarily troubling that no one is acting to do so.
Well said.
Luke?
Well said, Lou.
That's where you're going to leave it? You got it. Partner, it may be well said, it'd be better done. Luke, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Luke Rosiak, Daily Caller. Up next, Rhino Mitt Romney. Whoa. He wants a Senate seat that will soon be available. We'll take that up with former Utah Congressman, now Fox contributor Jason Chaffetz. Here next. Stay with us. In our online poll, we asked you last night, do you believe it's time for a new and unbiased investigation of the Clinton team's reckless handling of classified State Department emails? I was thinking maybe about 20% of you would say yes to that. Just joking. 88% of you said yes. Joining me now, former Republican Congressman from Utah, Jason Chaffetz, Fox Business contributor, great American. Good to have you here. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
What a mess. What a mess. I can't believe you actually left the swamp to join us
Can
here.
you imagine somebody
leaving
that disgusting mess of...
It is. And I want to go to John Solomon's reporting on the Hill today, talking about they've now discovered enough evidence many think, to prosecute Hillary Clinton. Why is this taking so long when it is so obvious that the fix was in from the moment that the FBI's top management got involved?
Well, if you go back to July of 2016, it all now makes sense because you had Director Comey basically make the case that Hillary Clinton should be charged, only to say that no reasonable prosecutor would charge her because the fix was in. And that's what it appears to a guy like me, sitting at the time as in Congress. I do think, though, one of the most important things that's happening, which is doesn't have leaks, you don't hear and read about it, is what Michael Horowitz, the Inspector General, he has 450 employees, nearly $100 million budget. He's been doing interviews, revealing documents, doing the things that he needs to do, and by the end of the first quarter here, he's going to have what I think will be the most definitive report from a body and a group of investigators that is, they don't have...
Is that going to include the National Security Division at the FBI?
I hope so.
Sally Yates wrote a 58-page memo to explain why the House didn't have oversight of the National Security Division.
Yeah, it is kind of ridiculous.
And the House accepted that.
Well, the oversight was put in place in 1814. So even Abraham Lincoln, when he was in Congress, was actually sitting on the oversight committee at the time.
The House still had rights to write laws and change them. I'm overwhelmed at the idiocy of that swamp. Why would anyone in their right mind accept the idea that an inspector general has at his or her leisure a year or two to come up with a result? We still haven't looked at the inspector general report on Benghazi, for crying out loud.
So I really do believe, I know Trey Gowdy and others really do believe in Michael Horowitz. They've been at this for less than a year. Myself and Elijah Cummings did this jointly together.
Jason, I've got to say to you and Trey Gowdy, I'm thinking if I had gone through the frustration that you guys had, I would cling to any possible hope that the system works. Because we just haven't seen it work. The American people have every right to say, what in the world are you doing to us? And by the way, the Democrats don't care because Democrats are the principal targets of all of this now and have been for a while. But the Republicans, to be treated so badly, why should we have to accept that an inspector general report has infinity in which to produce a report?
Two things that I think come to mind. One is I don't see the Republican leadership taking this as seriously and